What chapter were we on?
We're on chapter. We're on event planning, I don't know.
That's right.
On page 130.
Right.
And we were doing this case history for the sales mix by product line.
Yep. And we were studying or looking at what would it take to create a specific event, and what were some of the criteria we talked about?
Number of people.
Number of people. We want to look at the attendance. But the primary reason we were doing it, why were we doing it originally? We wanted the event to match what the overall budget was, right? So if we had an annual plan, if we had a special event, we wanted to create the same kind of process. Who remembers the 3 Ps?
Purpose, plan, and payoff.
Right. We wanted to know what's the purpose of this particular event, and then will we create a plan, have a plan for this event, and then what is the payoff? Why would we do this extracurricular activity, this new event? And so there has to be a payoff. And what are the 2 objectives that we talked about early on? There are 2 objectives in this kind of business. To make money, so we'll say one is financial, and what's the other? Think back weeks. We had 2 objectives. One was financial and one was, starts with an S. E. R. B.
Service.
Service. We had 2 objectives. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I'm glad to hear you guys laugh for a change. So, in this particular case, when we were looking at this case history with the Yankees coming to Redbirds or AutoZone Park and playing a spring training game, we typically want to make money, right? And we want to get people excited about coming to the stadium. We want to do something for the community. So that's kind of how we started the process. So the steps for event planning, it starts with a comprehensive plan. And we did that out of chapter 3. We create a comprehensive financial plan for the entire year, for all the events. And I think on the exam that you took, you had pro basketball, and you had concerts, and you had college ball. You had a number of different types of events. Well, in this particular case, we want to kind of create the same thing. So this is micro rather than macro version of creating an event. So I want to kind of go through some of those steps today, and then we'll practice some more with the case history and some of the math. So the first thing we wanted to do, if we're going to create a plan, we want to think about the 5 M's. Who remembers the 5 M's?
Money, machines,
Materials,
Method.
money, machines,
Manpower.
manpower, methods, and materials. Those were the 5. So you did good. See? You're retaining some of this information. So we need to estimate the number of people, or what's the personnel requirements for this particular event. And then any special events or special requests. For example, will we need ice carvings? Will we need specialty pastries? Will we need carts? A lot of times if you operate in a college venue, you don't sell alcoholic beverages. I remember when we were at Auburn University, we had the football stadium there. Garth Brooks was going to come. What did I have to think about with Garth Brooks versus,
Alcohol.
pardon me?
Alcohol.
Alcohol, beer sales. So alcohol was not allowed to be sold on campus. So what did we have to do? We had to approach the university and say, look, here's the deal. Garth Brooks is coming. And I had to come up with a comprehensive plan to show this is what the event's going to look like without alcohol, and this is what it's going to look like if we sell beer. And I realized that you typically wouldn't do this, so make a decision. Do you want to sell beer or not? So the president of the university, the board of regents, had to give us permission to do those kinds of activities. Special request. Going the wrong way. All right. So what was step one?
Project the expected dollar amount of sales by area and category for the event.
That's exactly right. And so if you remember in the case history, kind of looked at it a little bit, we knew we were going to have concession sales, we knew we were going to have some vendors, we might have some catering, we might have some private parties. How do we project expected sales? Kevin, you always answer this question first. We have to know the attendance.
Yeah.
So, in the case of the case history that we looked at, what's the expected attendance?
10,000.
10,000, that's easy. What do we need to know next? Well, let's back up just a little bit. I'm going a little bit faster. I'll slow down some. How do we know what the attendance is going to be?
Per cap.
No? If you look at the screen.
Past
We're going to look at the
history.
past history. So do the New York Yankees have a good history of attendance?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably the most renowned Major League Baseball team. They have the most world championships. Everybody likes the Yankees. Everybody wants to see a winner. So we know that from past history that the Yankees are probably going to have a big draw. That's going to help the attendance. What else did we want to talk about?
Yeah, box office.
Yeah, how do we find box office information? Do you guys remember last year, Garth Brooks came to town about this time of year?
Mhm.
Maybe.
Yeah. And so what happened? Do you remember?
It was mass chaos everywhere.
Mass
It was
chaos.
sold out.
That's what I'm
Every
driving
sing-
at.
Every single night.
How many concerts did he do?
Like 3,
5.
5. Just
Yeah.
kidding. He
Typically-
planned more because he sold out.
Right. He sold out so fast. Box office told us immediately it was going to be a sellout. And so the FedEx Forum holds, I think, 16 to 17,000 for a concert. He sold 17,000 tickets in less than 10 minutes. And, you know, I don't know if he's generous or if he just wants to be rich, but he realized that he could sell more tickets. So instead of doing one concert on a Friday night, he did a concert on Thursday, Friday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. Research. What do we mean by research?
Looking up like past history and box office information and
And maybe
location
in other cities.
Talking to other cities, exactly. I think I've talked to you guys about Promise Keepers, where we had that retreat for men on a Christian level, and they were coming to Memphis. And I don't know what that's going to do at Liberty Bowl Stadium. So I called Atlanta, and I called St. Louis, and I called Dallas, and I called similar cities, New Orleans, and I said, what was the event like? And how many people actually came? They told us we're going to sell out. And they said, yeah, you're going to sell out. If you got 50,000, you're going to sell 50,000 tickets for 3 days. Remember we talked about weather last week. The difference between what? Rain versus sunshine, cold versus warm. So we decided this game, if you remember, when's the game going to take place?
I'm sorry, it was, we had like a Saturday, I
Right.
had it written down somewhere, Saturday,
What time of day?
and like the
Like midday.
early afternoon.
Midday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, yeah. And we talked about the variety of what that'll do for attendance. If they played on a Wednesday, would that be different than a Saturday?
Yeah.
Yes. People have conflicts on Wednesday. Usually they're working and can't get off work. So knowing the research and understanding what the weather would be, whether it's at night or during the day, in the morning or afternoon. So these are all the things that you want to consider when you're starting to project attendance. Then we said after we know the attendance, what do we need to know? Per capita. And what was the per capita for the event?
$7.
$7. So if we took the attendance times per capita, how much money do we expect to make? Hello.
70,000.
70,000. And how did we get to the $7 per capita?
I'm assuming you divide the attendance by,
No, we're projecting, right? And so, why did we say 10,000 as the attendance? Do you remember?
Number of seats.
Number of seats in the stadium. And then we took into account the team and the history and all of these things here. So we said, this is going to be a sellout. It's going to be on a Saturday afternoon, not a Wednesday night. So we're going to have a full house. And AutoZone Park holds 10,000 people. So we're going to figure 10,000, right? How did we figure out what the per capita is? Where did the $7 come from? It was given to you, but it was given to you because we understand the past history. We typically would see at the Redbird Stadium maybe $6.50 per cap for the Redbirds games, right? But we know this is a professional team. People are going to get there early. They want to get pictures. They want to get autographs. So they're going to be there for a little longer, we anticipate, we expect. So we're looking at the past history in-house and what happens during championship games. So if the Redbirds make it to the Pacific Coast League Championship, and they were playing for the World Championship for AAA baseball, what would it look like? And then past history in the industry. So the other thing that you might do in this particular case is call other places where the Yankees have done a spring game or an exhibition game and say, what did you do that day? Were your sales higher or lower? About the same? Did you sell a lot more beer? Did you sell a lot of merchandise? A lot of times, concessionaires have two contracts. They'll have the contract for the food, and they also have the contract for the souvenirs, the hats, the t-shirts, the pennants. So we need to know about the history in the industry itself, and then any other. So now we know what the sales are. That's step one. What's step two?
Project food and supplies.
Right. And didn't we do that a little bit last class? So in the case history, I think it said hot dogs were what? 20% of total sales?
Yeah.
And so how much did we sell in hot dogs? What are our anticipated hot dog sales?
14,000.
14,000. Very good. So you're starting to get a feel for how you're going to break this information down. Now that we know we have $14,000 coming from hot dogs anticipated, what's it going to look like as far as the sales mix? So this is an easy question. I just want to see if you guys are starting to learn the vernacular. What's the sales mix for hot dogs? In this case history.
Sales mix. Is it hot dogs, giants, and sausages?
Kind of. Let's start though. You already gave me the answer. The sales mix for hot dogs is 20% of total sales. Now we can break down that and we can get even more specific and we can say, okay, we got 3 different kinds of hot dogs, right? And so we had kind of a regular hot dog, then we had a giant hot dog, and we had a sausage. Am I correct? And so the sales mix now can even be broken down inside the category itself. I think we did the same thing with like sodas. We have 3 different kinds of sodas. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convert it to a dollar value. So what we did is we took that 20% of 70,000 and we created a dollar amount. What did we do next? In the case of hot dogs.
Once we found the
Even
dollar.
further, that's right. So what was a regular hot dog? What was that percent of sales? 70%. So how would we figure out what the sales are for hot dogs in the regulars? Pardon me?
Multiply that 70% by 14,000.
That's right. And you came up with 9,400, something like that?
800.
Okay.
And then you divide it by the amount that they're being sold for.
Right. So we're going to convert that dollar amount into the number we needed. And how did we do that?
You took 9,800 divided by 250 and you get 3,000.
What's the 250?
The sales price?
That's the sales price. That's exactly right. And that's going to tell us how many hot dogs we need to make the 9,400. And if I remember correctly, I said, for the exam purposes, for testing, that's what I want you to do. In real life, what should you do?
Break it down even more, right?
Well, yes.
Like order more.
Order at least 10% more. That's right. In real life, because if you have a really good day and the team goes into extra innings and you could sell another 100 hot dogs, but wait, Mr. Ritter said, I should do it just like this. That make sense? You won't sell the extra 100 because you don't have any extra. So in real life practices, you want to order at least 10% more. Why wouldn't you order 20% more?
She might
that
not
was-
sell all that.
And then what do you do?
Double. That's double
Then it's
what you.
wasted.
Yeah, then it's wasted. So for example, when I was in the college stadium business and we would do football games, I would have to look at the schedule and I'd have to say, okay, Auburn plays LSU this week at home, and they play Ole Miss the week after that at home, and then they play Vanderbilt the week after that at home. I got 3 home games in a row, right? And then they're not at home for 6 weeks. They're playing at Alabama, they're playing at Florida, they're playing at Georgia. Why would that be important?
You don't want to order too much stuff on the last
That's
game.
right. On the first game, whatever the first game is, like LSU, I know I can have a little extra product, right? Because I can reorder or rebuild the par stock back up to the next game. But on that last game, who did I say, Vanderbilt, okay, I got 6 weeks before the next game. So I don't want a lot of stuff in the warehouse. If I have my candy stockroom stored with candy, what likes to eat candy? Other than people?
Nice.
Mice, yeah. So I'm almost encouraging, rodents to come in. Popcorn the same way, raw corn. So you want to be a little bit cognizant that you don't want too much product, but you want to have enough to carry through. Step 3 is talking about planning for personnel. So, if you don't mind, let's go to page 139 in my book. It's a chart that says planning labor. You see that? We can do the same thing with concessions and management and all the other types of work we do. What do we know about management? We're having a special event. Do we need a manager? Yes. Do we have to pay the manager? Yes. Isn't the manager already in a fixed situation because they're there all year? So we might not necessarily include a manager and their salary in a special event if we already are paying them. Does that make sense? But if we have to bring in more people to work to operate this event, then we're going to want to use a chart like this. So, in your case history, does it say anything about what the labor is? Or concession stands, or vending, or portables?
2%.
Yeah.
Well, supported labor 2%.
Support labor is 2%. What else do we have? What I really want to know is, does it say in there how much money is going to be earned from the concession stands? It doesn't?
An hour? Yeah, it does, with all the math we did.
Sort of, yes. But in this particular case, what if I told you that 70% of the sales come from concessions? What would you do? Look at your chart on page 139. Might be 137 in some of the books.
Put that in your projected sales.
Yeah. So, we said total sales were going to be $70,000, right?
So that's the total projection?
Total projected sales. Remember, it was 10,000
yeah.
people times
Times the.
$7. Okay? So we know this is our total sales. And if you look at the chart on page 138, the previous page, it really allows you to write down all the specifics at the top of that chart. So the event, Yankees, spring training. Day, we said Saturday. The date, you can pick a day. We'll say March 31st. Projected attendance and projected sales. Okay, so projected attendance was 10,000. Per capita was $7. Total sales was 70,000. And then if you remember, we went down the chart and we kind of filled out how many hot dogs we had. We looked at the menu mix. Well, let's now go to the other page, and where it says projected sales breakdown in the area, concession stands. I said concession stands are going to be 70%. What does that equal in total sales? Just in the concessions.
7,000.
No. You're going to take 0.7 or 70% times, so it would be $49,000. That's what the concession stands are going to earn for us in this case history. Now let's say we've got vendors. We've got people walking around the stadium selling cotton candy and lemonade and sodas. They're going to bring in 15% of sales. How much is that? $10,500. Okay? And then let's just say we're going to have some catering or picnics, specialty catering, and that's going to be 15%. What does that total out? 10,500. Now for me to check my work, I'm going to say 70 plus 15 plus 15 equals 100%. So that's a good thing. If I add these numbers up right here, it equals $70,000. That's a good way to back check. All right, now I have to figure out what kind of labor I've got and how many people are going to be working. And so what we just did is we just completed Roman numeral number 1 in your chart. You see that? All right. Now, let's go down to labor cost projected, which is Roman numeral number 2. Kevin, you told me support labor is 2%, right?
Yes.
Okay, so support labor is 2%. 2% of what? Total sales. What's 2% of total sales? I hope it's $1,400. Is that correct?
Yep.
Did you see how we got that? All right. So now, in your chart, you can put down there, support at 2% equals $1,400. Concessions. How much are we paying the concessions?
10%.
10%. So now we're going to take concessions, and we're going to pay them 10%. What's that number?
7,000.
How much?
7,000.
That's where people make mistakes. What mistake did you just make?
You took 10% of the total sales.
And what should it be?
10% of the concession stands.
So should be 4,900. That's correct. All right. What are vendors? What are we paying the vendors?
20%.
20%? Where does it say that?
Right here.
It does? It says 20%? Good. Okay.
I was like.
I don't have the paper, I don't have the case history in front of me, so I normally would say something like 8%. So when you said 20%, it seemed a little high. Okay? So, how much is 20%?
20% of 10,500.
That's right.
Okay.
Again, vendors, right here. This number, not the total.
Yeah.
So you get 2 pages, right? Page 1, page 2.
Uh,
We're on page 2 right now of
But it
case
also
history.
says that,
17.
Oh,
Vendor
sorry.
thing.
I was
Okay.
looking at the wrong page.
Good for you.
I don't have the second page. It's in my.
17%. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. At the break, we'll make copies.
Cool.
All right, so it's not, so what is 17% of 10,500?
1,705.
$785. Everybody agree with that? Okay, and then what do we have for catering? Do we have catering?
No,
No?
we have bar,
Okay, we have bar. What does bar say?
6%.
And maybe this is bar up here also. So it's 6% of what?
Bar sales.
Right, and what is that? 6 times 10, 5. 10,500.
So would you use the vendor's number for that?
No. Question?
It's not right because the vendor is 20% and the catering is 10%. So the number for 10,500 is not right.
Okay.
So
Why is it not right?
because
Oh,
you-
because these numbers here, you're telling me now that's different?
because you use vendor as 15%.
Right?
But the vendor is 20%.
Okay. I'm okay with that. Do you want to change this number to 20?
No.
That's good.
So we use the case
You're-
number.
Yeah, I was just giving you a sample, but we can use the case history, which is fine. So let's do that. 20% of 70,000 is probably $14,000? Is that correct? Do you see what Sharon's saying?
No.
Okay. What I did early on when we first started, I was giving you a sample, just a sort of a guess. And I broke it down like 70, 15, and 15. But Sharon has read page 2 where it actually gives you the number of what the sales are. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, Mr. Renner, time out. The number on my paper says 20%, not 15. That make sense? And so she's right in this case history. So now I'm going to take 20% of the total sales and it's $14,000, which is excellent.
So which one should we use, 20% or 15% for the one in the assignment?
For in that page right there, you're going to use the 20% because that's what it says in the case history. So we've come a long way, guys. Early on, when we started doing a lot of this analyzation, you guys were a little bit lost. Now you're able to look at this and say, well, wait a minute, what you're telling us is not what it says on the paper. That make sense? So it means you're digesting this and you're figuring it out. Okay, so if that's 20%, then bars have to be how much? 10%. Now we get back to 100%. All right? And 10% is going to be $7,000. Support's still going to be 2% of the total, 70,000. Concessions is still 10% of the 49 or 4,900. Vendors are going to change. It's 17% of what number?
The 14.
14,000. Thank you. So it's not 1785 anymore. What is it?
2,380.
2,380?
80.
80?
Yes.
All right, and then we're going to have 6% of, where we at? $7,000? And that's probably 420 bucks? All right. So now you've completed Roman numeral number 2. And you can figure out what your total labor is. What are we going to spend, or what are we budgeted for on this particular event now? Total labor spent. What are we allowed to spend?
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to write down the math.
Okay,
And then I'll-
take your time, slow down. So you're working at AutoZone Park. You have this event coming up. And the president of the company says, gosh, Marley, this is a great opportunity for us. We're going to make some money. How much do you think we're going to have to pay labor?
So for the totals, you're adding Roman numeral 1 and 2 together?
Nope.
No, just 2.
So Roman numeral number 1 is really just breaking down the sales,
Okay.
okay? And telling us which compartment, which category is going to make what amount of money. So we know in Roman numeral number 1 that concession stands are going to make $49,000 because it's 70% of the total. We know that vendors, the hawkers, are going to make 20% of the total. They're going to be responsible for that amount of money. So it's $14,000. We have catering and bars, and that's going to represent 10% of our sales, or $7,000. That's what we know. Now, we know that we pay each category differently, and it's not all the same. So we're going to allot 2% support labor. Who remembers what support labor is?
That's the, like, is that the volunteer, no, the people that walk around?
No.
So the people that back up.
They're
concession
at the
stand?
back of the house. In restaurants, we would call it back of the house. They're back there making nacho cheese, and they're running supplies to each one of the concession stands. They're working out of the commissary. They might be making soup or chili. They may be cutting onions for the condiment stations. So we have some people in the back of the house doing work for all the concession stands, the vendors, and the bars. Might have somebody back there cutting limes and lemons for the bars. Okay? That's support labor. So it's 2% of the total because they're working for the entire operation, not one segment of the business. So we figure that 2% of 70,000 is 1,400. Okay, then we looked at the concession stands, and we know that the concession stands are going to make $49,000, and we're going to budget 10% of concession sales for labor. All right, so we took 10% times 49, which equals 4,900. Now we have to figure out the vendors. The vendors represent 20% of the business, and we're going to estimate that we pay them 17%. So they're going to get 17% of the 14,000, which is $2,380. $2,380. We also have bartenders. We got to pay the bartenders, bar backs. And we're going to estimate about 6%. Why would we estimate 6% here and not 10%? What's different about bartenders?
Because their forecast, oh,
They get tipped.
They get tips.
Yeah.
Yeah. So typically, I don't know, is it that way in your restaurant business right now? Service.
I mean, bartenders are just,
What's your question?
Well, my question is that the cook might make $10 an hour. What does a bartender make?
I think they make
It's similar to
the
serving.
similar to servers.
Right.
But I do think that they make a little bit more.
They
Yeah,
do.
but servers typically make what, about $3 an hour?
2.13.
$2.15, right. And
They
why is
probably
that?
make $5
There's a
max.
percentage of the server's check at the restaurant that I work at that goes
Just
to
tip out.
the host in the bar.
Right. So they break it down.
Because I've worked at some places where at the end of the night, you're supposed to determine based on like the money that you made at the end, what you're gonna give them.
I don't think that's
Yeah,
fair.
payouts. We call them
And, yeah,
payouts.
and that's ridiculous. But, yeah, most,
I just
like,
had a light bulb.
yeah, at the restaurant that I work at now, it's a percentage taken out of my check.
Yeah. So can I ask you what that percentage is? Because when I was in the business, it was 10%.
Mine was 10% of my sales for the night, like when I worked at my last job. It was between 10 and 12% of my total sales for my shift
Yeah.
that I had to pay out the bartender.
Right.
So if I made $100
You had to give him 10.
in tips, I had to give them $10.
Right.
Which I think is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And bartenders are the worst about
Yeah.
that too. They're so mean about it,
Yeah.
or at least the places
It's-
that I've worked.
It's, I'm glad to hear this because it's consistent
you're-
with 40 years ago when I was doing that kind of work. You know, there's, I'm kind of getting off topic here, but there's a little bit of justification, or an attempt at justification, because the bartender says, if I'm back here mixing drinks and I'm handing them to you, all you're doing is delivering them. That make sense? And so if I was giving it to a guest, that guest would give me 15 or 20% or some tip. I'm not getting any tips, but I have to get away from my customers to come serve you. That Makes sense? That's how a bartender would justify it.
Right, but my bartenders at the place that I worked at didn't leave the bar.
Yeah,
Which, I mean, and I understand that it's a very demanding job, you know, like, I get it. And
Right.
I never, like, you know, I always gave my tip.
Yeah.
But I just feel like bartenders make they have a lot better luck with money
Yeah.
than servers do.
I'll give you a better one. If you want to get really mad, here's one. So back in the day, we had what we call wine sommeliers, a wine specialist, and they would go from table to table, and they'd sell a bottle of wine for $100. And that would go on the restaurant check, right? And we had to give the wine sommelier, okay, 15% of all of our wine sales.
Well, yeah.
Well, all he did is walk over and hand him a bottle of wine and leave. I poured it. I served it.
But I mean, I guess it's the fact that he has to convince the customer to buy it.
That's a
That
good
kind of
point.
helps the restaurant.
Yes, I like the way you think. I like the way you think. So really what I like about this is that there's two sides to every story. And I agree with you that it's very frustrating to do a payout. For example, we used to have to pay our busboys 10% of
Well, I
all
mean,
of our
like
sales.
I feel like that's
busboy.
different. And I feel like that's kind of, I mean, yeah, true.
Well,
But
We bust our own tables.
Yeah.
at my job, I am
I'm
the
good
hostess,
with
the
that.
bartender, the busboy, the server, all in one, and I
Yeah.
still make $2.13 an
Yeah,
hour.
but you get
And
tips.
I don't have to tip anybody out.
Yeah, but you just be tipping yourself as a hostess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so what I really want to do is I want to get back to this, okay? So I asked the question about the 6%, why do they make less? It's because they get tips, that's right on, okay? So then of $7,000 to $420. Now, in your chart there, in your case history, does it tell you how much any of these people make? What's,
Yeah, the wage rates,
okay, what's the wage rate for concessions?
$8.
$8. Why am I going to divide $4,900 by 8?
Because that's how much your projected sales are.
No. Well, my projected sales are $4,900. I'm paying $8 an hour. I just put a divide sign right here. Why am I dividing $4,900 by 8?
Figure out how many concession employees.
How many hours?
Close.
there
How
are?
many hours? That's exactly right. So how many hours can I schedule now? So do that math for me real quick.
612.5.
612, thank you. 12.5. Now, this is going to be a little different than what we talked about earlier. You remember when we had a decimal point for hot dogs? What did we do? We always rounded up, right? Because we needed to have that amount of material. When we do labor, we round down because we don't want to spend more than $4,900. So in this particular case, how many hours would we schedule?
612.
612. That gets to be a little bit confusing from time to time. Okay, what are we paying the vendors, the hawkers?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't say. Why does it not say?
Because they work on tips.
They work on commissions, and they're going to get just the 17%. So we're not going to have to do anything here. Okay? We're going to leave that number alone. And then what are we paying bartenders?
8.
$8?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to divide this by 8. How many hours can we schedule in bartending or catering?
52.
52. Okay. We got 52 hours. Now, why did we do this little task? Why did we do this analysis? Why did we get all the way to this point
You
here?
don't do support personnel either.
No, I didn't. So let's do that. That's a good point. What's support?
$8.50.
$8.50. So divide that by 850 and tell me what that number is.
164.
164.
And those are hours?
Those are hours.
And you don't do vendors because vendors.
It's a commission. Okay? So they're going to get 17% of whatever they sell. So if they change their sales and they sell more, then they're going to get paid more. If they sell less, they're going to get paid less. These people here are going to get $8 an hour. End of conversation. All right, so you got that. That's good. back to this question. Why are we doing this analysis?
So you can figure
Figure
out
out
how
what
many
your
people
labor.
schedule.
Yeah, we're gonna find out if this budget actually fits with our standards. So you remember way back when? I gave you a standard. How many POS, points of sale, do you need?
1.5.
No? That's close. You got a number, but that's not the right
Well,
one.
it's 1.5 people per PO.
That's right.
But it's,
How many points of sale do we need? How do you figure that ratio?
How many employees?
well, yeah,
How many stands you have?
No?
How many employees you're gonna work?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna move to this chart over here, because I wanna write this down. If you remember, we had a standard. We can have one POS
per,
per how many people? Remember, we had 175 was one number, we had 200 was a number, we had 150 as a number, as a ratio. Do you remember that? And if we used 175 as a number, how many points of sale do we need for this event? You'd be 10,000 people coming, right?
yeah,
Divided by 175. What is that number?
57.
57. I need 57 points of sale. What if I wanted to make the service better? What would I do?
200.
No?
Well, I mean,
200 means I have less points of sale. So let's do that number. If I did 10,000 divided by 200, it would equal only 50 points of sale.
no. So you would lower it.
So if you went to 150, what would that number be? More like 60, I think.
66,
66 points of sale.
which is better.
Pardon me?
Which is better.
Yeah, why is 66 points of sale better than 50?
It's faster sales.
Yeah, the line, you've got more lines. You can spread the people out, serve them faster. Okay, but let's go with the 175 for now, okay? So we got 57 points of sale. Okay, Ariel, this is where you get to answer the question. How many people do we need?
57, or, oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure. That doesn't hear.
We need 1.5 people.
1.5, yes, okay, sorry.
So multiply 57 times 1.5.
80.
I said that earlier, you said that was wrong.
What's that?
I said 1.5 and you said that was wrong, that's why I was confused.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that.
You're okay.
Okay.
That's why I was really confused.
Yeah, no, oh. I said you were wrong because you were giving me the number of people per points of sale. I was looking
Okay.
for this number.
Oh,
That's why I
okay,
told
okay,
you you were
okay.
wrong.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back here. How many do we need, Kevin?
85.7. So
85.
86.
0.7. Now, he rounded up to 86. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad.
Why is it bad?
We're supposed to round down.
We typically would round down, that's exactly right. If we want to stay within the budget. What if we wanted to increase the service, what would we do?
Then you round it.
We would round up. Good, see? You guys got this figured out. So let's just say 85 for now. So we need 85 employees. Now, how long does the game last? A typical baseball game lasts how long?
3 hours?
Yeah.
3 hours. So do the employees show up when the game starts?
No.
They typically show up a little bit before, right?
Mhm.
So let's assume that we're going to have, the gates always open 2 hours prior to. So when do we need to have the concession stands open?
An hour before gates open?
No.
No.
We want the concession stands open when the gates open.
Oh, I meant workers.
Okay? So if the game started at 2, what time do we want everyone in the stand and open the stands? Noon, 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's a 3-hour game. What time does the game get over?
6-ish.
No.
Wait,
It starts at
5.
5.
5. They're typically 2.5 to 3 hours. So let's say it's a 3-hour game. So now we've gone from noon to 5, plus we've got some cleanup, right? So let's just run this test and say we're going to schedule each employee for 6 hours. Okay? So let's take 85 times 6 hours. What's that number?
510.
510. Right. How much do we pay them?
$8. Or,
Huh?
yeah, $8.
$8. So multiply that times $8.
4,080.
4,080. What's our budget? 4,900.
Yeah,
How many hours are we allowed to budget based on 4,900?
612.
612. What does this tell us right now?
We're under budget.
We're under budget. So what this is telling us is those numbers over there will allow us to use this analytical data to get the right number of people to work. Make sense? So all of this can be transferred into restaurants just as easily.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, so when I get my schedule at work, is this what my managers are having to do?
Okay, so you want me to tell you the truth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that most managers don't do this. Okay? They basically say, I think it's going to be busy Saturday, I need 10 servers. And they schedule 10 servers. They don't say, Saturday night, I'm going to do $8,000 or I'm going to do $49,000. And how much does the average employee bring in? And what are the sales? And what do I want to manage my budget to? It makes sense? So that's why I'm saying to you in this class, and I've repeated it a couple of times, you guys, when you leave this class, you're going to be so much more prepared to manage a business than the general population of managers out there. Does that make sense? Because now you know there is analytical data out there that tells you how you can run your business. Now, restaurants probably have a little bit different method. Not the same numbers as 175, for each point of sale. But what I'm doing right now is I'm going back to check. Now, let's look at vendors, hawkers. How many hours can I schedule them?
We didn't do that.
Yeah, we did. You're my favorite person for thinking outside the box. What's interesting about vendors, and why would we want to use vendors?
I thought you said that vendors.
What's that?
Because they work on commission.
They work on a commission. How many hours do you schedule them?
For however they want.
For however long the game.
I don't have to start figuring out these numbers with vendors because they're just going to get paid. I can work them 10 hours, I can work them 6 hours, they're getting a commission. Okay, which brings me to the next point. A lot of minor league stadiums, colleges and universities, not the pro stadiums, use volunteer groups. Have we talked about volunteer groups? We have?
It was in our last case.
That's right. And what's interesting about volunteer groups?
They're cheaper
Why are they cheaper?
Because you don't pay.
because they're not committed, they're cheaper because you don't have to. I guess I'm trying to just say, like, you don't have to see them all the time, you don't have to pay them. Like, they're just volunteering.
I don't want to see you come around.
Does that make sense?
Sort of, but no. First of all, we said they're a contract employee, so we don't have to pay payroll-related cost.
Yeah.
So we're going to say 14% right there. What's the other thing? They're contract employees, so they're just like vendors. So we pay them a commission. So how many hours do we want them to work?
As many as that.
Right. So in this particular case, if I had volunteer groups, I could say all the employees have to be here at 11, and they have to stay till 8 o'clock tonight cleaning up. Does that cost me any more money? No.
Not for them.
Yeah,
Because they're
they're
not on
basically
payroll.
making less per
That's what
hour.
I was trying to
Does that make
say.
sense? That they're there. But for me as a manager, it's easier because now all I know is I need you to bring me 85 employees. Okay? So let's just say the Bartlett cheerleaders are going to bring 10. Okay? And the Kiwanis Club is going to bring 15. And Memphis Elite Cheerleading Squad is going to bring 10. I got to get to 85. Okay? With volunteer groups. Because that's what it says. I need 85. As a matter of fact, if you use volunteer groups, this number, remember it was like 85.7? Now, if you're not paying by the hour, you can round up. As a matter of fact, you can make that 90.
Yeah.
Make sense? All right. So, having said that, we've gone through Roman numeral number 2 on payroll. We've also sort of done exactly what the man-hour forecast is, which is Roman numeral number 3. So concessions at $8 an hour, how many man-hours can we schedule? 612. And then we did a test. And it looks like under this scenario, with 10,000 seats, we're going to need a minimum of what? 510 hours. So we've got a little flexibility. We can bring some people in a little bit earlier to get things done. Same thing here with support labor. These people are working in the kitchen, so they're typically going to work 8 hours. And we might even have them in there on a Friday prior to. So if we have 164, divide that by, say, 12 hours. I'll say they're going to come in and work 4 hours on Friday to get things prepped up, and then they're going to work 8 hours on Saturday. So that's 12 hours each. How many employees can I bring in?
51.
51 support employees. That's a lot of support, to be honest with you, at 12 hours. Maybe, in this particular case, I have to have some people there earlier in the week to receive the trucks that's bringing the hot dogs and the ketchup and all the supplies. Paper cups, tubs, napkins. And so I need some people there on Wednesday to receive. So maybe the number is not 12, maybe the schedule is 16 or 20. So if we had 20 hours per person, how many support personnel can we bring in?
Sorry, what was the number?
20 hours.
8 point, wait, oh,
Yeah?
8.2.
Yeah. So we're going to say 8 people. So we know if we're going to hire, okay, for this particular event, we need 8 people to work in support. Maybe 4 in the kitchen, 4 in the warehouse. Something like that. All right. Any questions?
I like this a lot better.
How did you get the 51% on support? Or not the 51, I'm sorry, you put a 51 somewhere.
Oh, I had a 51 right here, okay?
Okay.
Because what we did is we took this number and divided it by 12 hours each,
Oh, okay, and you got 51, okay.
but that doesn't look like that's right. Is that correct?
Sorry, what was the number?
164 divided by 12. Looks more like 10.
Sorry, 13.6.
13. So we can bring in 13 people to work. Good catch. And then I said if we change this to 20 hours per person working, this number changes to 8 point something. All right? So you think you can do this? You see?
With
I told
some
you.
extra practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break and we'll come back at 10 after 10.